And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Today we're looking at a game that He-Man always said he had, and this is called P.O.W.E.R, or P-W-O-P... Man, I can't spell. P.O.W.E.R is a game that's actually about military, modern military specifically. And what you'll be doing in this game is you'll be taking 8 cards and going up against your opponent's 8 cards, whether these be modern tanks against modern infantry, against helicopters, and you'll fight them in almost an abstract chess simulation style combat. Let's take a look. Now what you're looking at here are specialized nice mats. This is if you buy the deluxe game. These are like mouse pad style. They're very nice. They're not necessary. You can just play the game on an imaginary grid. But the game is itself put into these cards here. So we're going to take a close look at these cards. There are 6 different decks of cards that are included in the game. Each of these card decks has an icon down in the corner so that you can see what kind of deck that is. Like one of the decks is a defense deck, one of the decks is an infantry deck. However, that does not mean all the cards in that deck are infantry. So let's take a closer look. We'll look at the infantry deck here. And you can see there's a sniper squad there. And there's a couple of stats on this. It can attack. Down here, it shows what units it can damage. At the top, it shows what unit it is. It also shows how it can move, 1 space orthogonally. It shows how it can attack, 1 radius, that means in any 1 space in any direction. It shows how much damage, and it shows how much health it has. It also says TCA on it. TCA is basically where you turn the card sideways. We're just going to say tap because that's what it is. Self-supply means it can supply itself. So you can see that's a sniper squad. Here's a force recon, and you see there's a picture of each one. There's different abilities on the cards. As you can see, these are all infantry cards in this deck, except this one here is a special card that you'll be able to play. And then there's a rifle squad. Now compare that to cards that are in other decks. There's a paladin howitzer. Here's an anti-tank javelin. There's all different weapons, including helicopters. There's a Black Hawk, and there's all sorts. Here's a Sheridan, one of my favorite tanks, or the Apache, or even a Thunderbolt. Now, before I get into everything about the game, there is something that I'm going to say it's very positive, and that is the rules. Now, the rules are pretty detailed, and they explain everything, although they're not that difficult of rules to explain. However, the game comes with cards. Now, I don't normally like card rules, if that's all you have. You have a set of rules that you can look up. But these card rules are very nice because of a couple things. There are several cards in the game that are just nice and easy for quick reference. For example, this tells you the different power card types. This tells you exactly how movement works. And one of the nicest things I've seen is this here basically tells you what all the different abilities are. Here we have a turn card ability, explains what that is. The card traits, it tells you what the different stats are. This is something that's nice and easy to have on the board. Now, this game itself comes with several cards, and each of these cards is how you play the game. This is where they say there's 5 different games. For private, you just randomly take one of those 8-card packs. For a corporal, you're going to each take 2 of those 8-card packs and then play best 2 out of 3. Or you can take the packs and build your own custom. Once you take them, you are going to put, of your 8-card pack that you take, let's say, this is my 8-card pack that I take. I'm going to put 2 cards on each of these spots here next to my thing. I'm sorry, over here on the power spots. Wrong side. So I'm going to put 2 cards on each spot. Now, on your turn, first you move and attack with your units. But you can't do that at the beginning of the game. So instead, you will turn over one of these cards. So let's say I turn over this card here. I look and this says headquarters at the top. So I put this on my headquarters line. Actually, no, I can put this directly into play. So then I turn over the next card. The next card says BQ1. So I put that here under BQ1. Then I turn over this card here, another headquarters one that comes out. I turn over this card here, BQ1, put that on top of the other card. I turn over this one, another BQ1, I put that on top. Then I turn this one over, BQ headquarters. These get to come right out. The harder stuff to get on the board will start up here, and then each turn you move this stuff down when it's face up until it comes into play. So the headquarters stuff can get on the board faster and move around. What you're basically doing as you play this game is you'll be moving these around, and when you're within range of someone, you can usually use a TCA ability to attack that unit and hopefully kill it. If it doesn't kill it, hopefully you have another unit and both of them can attack. Some things like this basic supply unit can carry other units. Now, once you're turned sideways, you can't go again until you have gotten supplies, which means you might have to move all the way back to the headquarters because you can resupply in headquarters. Some units can self-supply, and other units can supply other units as they're out on the board. Now, essentially, though, what you're doing is you're just trying to move into position so that you can kill enemy units. There's no rolling of dice, there's no drawing of cards, there's no luck at all. Basically, if you have enough attack power, you can kill other units. And if you're out there and you run out of ammunition, you're just going to be a sitting duck or a sitting useless piece of whatever until other units can come out and they can tap to supply you. And then they can move back, pick up more supplies, and come back. The first person to get an infantry or a tank unit to the opponent's headquarters spots is the winner of the game. Power is almost a misleading game. Maybe not even almost. Maybe it is a misleading game because when you first get it out, you look at it and you're like, wow, look at all these stats, look at these cards. I'm going to take this military and go up against your military, and wow. But when the game actually starts playing, it suddenly feels a lot less militaristic. Now, Power brags that there are 5 games, what does it say here in the back? 5 games in one. No, there's not 5 games in one. There's 5 ways to set up. In one way, you each take a random deck of cards. In another way, you build decks of cards. Another way, you take different decks and build them, and then your opponent chooses one of your decks. Okay, it all plays the same way. And once you get that out of your mind, okay, it's just one game, then you're going to look at the game. Now, the cards look great. There's lots of cool stats, which can be kind of overwhelming on how all these stats interact with each other. But then you play and find that the game is a whole lot simpler than you imagined. There are a couple problems with Power. One is the theme and the gameplay have a bit of a disconnect. You can move someone up and you can attack and then they need to be supplied, and you say, well, that makes sense. Yes, but I don't know how to necessarily explain it. It doesn't ever feel like that's what you're doing. I never really feel like I'm using tank and artillery infantry. I just feel like I'm checking the card. Okay, I can move here and I can attack you. And we just all move at the enemy and they move at me, and okay, I don't move forward as fast. I'm sure that I'm going to hear from the designer and maybe from fans of this game, but I didn't feel like there was any great tactical depth to this game, and the whole revealing cards and moving them down aspect almost felt more like blind luck than anything else. Okay, you say, but what about the deck building part? The deck building aspect in this game is there. I mean, you can take the different kinds of decks and mix them together, but it just feels odd because you don't really know what your opponent's going to use except in the later games. But in the initial games, you don't. So you basically set up, you look at what your opponent has and say, okay, he has a queen or bishop. Okay, it's not necessarily like chess in that regard. But when it all comes down to it, there's no luck in the game. You're just moving cards around and killing other cards. And I wish I could say it was more exciting than that, but it's really not. The game comes like this, or you get the deluxe version with the mats. And either way, I wanted a game that had more of a thematic feel to it. If I'm going to have all these cool modern warfare cards, I wish they were more than just, oh, this is a 2-1-3-3 and that's a 2-1-2-2. The cards can attack, you know, this infantry doesn't need to be supplied and this one can attack only air. Okay, that's thematic, but it never felt like that. Now, I've been kind of negative towards Power, and I don't mean to, because it's obvious that a lot of thought went into this. And I'm sure that, you know, when they looked here at the Apache and they said, okay, it takes longer to get this into play, it can move a certain distance, it can attack in these directions and do that, that you would say that you're not going to look at any card in this game and go, that's crazy. That's, you know, that shouldn't be that way. But That being said, it just feels very thinky. And you say, well, military combat is thinky. Yeah, but sometimes you need military combat. And this, you could have replaced all these military things with just some basic abstract symbols, and I don't think people would notice it that much. So it's there. Great pictures. Like I said, some obvious thought that went into this, but not 5 games, 1 game. And for me, one that I didn't enjoy as much as I thought I would.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.